So the story begins with the musk, a deer, which travels through the mountains and through the jungles, trying to figure out where the smell is coming from. The sage says the scent is in you, the kasturi. The smell is coming from a part which is inside you, and you have to find out which part. And eventually, the deer finds out and he gives his life in search of Kasturi. So that story kind of kept me thinking that crafts and art is something that one has to really dive in and really have to explore. It's more of a self-exploration than teaching anybody arts and crafts. So our creative expression and authenticity is something which makes us stand apart from the whole world. The motives that we have, the colors that we place, the heritage, the creativity, the skill that it comes, everything. Also, a bonus is the sustainability. So this kind of skill only we have in our country have, and we possess this skill and tradition to enjoy. We are very lucky to enjoy this kind of luxury. That's what asi means. Everything is inside you. You just need to kind of see through, calm down, hear what your heart, what your mind is saying. And I believe in that. And be open to hearing people, be open to listen to your craftspeople, textile artists, and the world is just like an adventure, and you go on a safari. Start with my presentation. I just wanted to take you through a small journey which led to this presentation, and this is a very interpersonal relationship that I'm going to share with you. It's a journey of a lot of things. It's a journey that has been, and I'm just sharing my personal journey with you. So when I was a kid, and there's a place in Calcutta called Kumartuli, which hosts most of the Durga Puja idols and creates all the idols that you see in Calcutta. So there'll be about 300, 350 small art studios, and hardly the light enters those studios. And these are very small lanes, and each structures are about 10 to 12 feet. And always wondered how these structures are made and how these structures were taken out. As a kid, I used to get mesmerized by the casual attitude of the artist working in this beautiful workshop with a very different kind of a muggy smell, which I loved. The hands so casually throwing the clay onto the structure, and yet magic evolving by creating those beautiful idols. So the whole process, the whole synergy in those small studios spaced between one each other and hardly space to walk in was always mesmerizing. And it kept kind of, from my kid, always I had this thought how one dwells, how one thinks, evokes such beautiful ideas, how things are created. And this kept on my search, and hence I studied my art and then left my art college, studied design, and worked with some of the greatest designers and installation people in India and across the country. This is the presentation talks about my understanding in search of Kasturi and how I am still trying to find my Kasturi. So I hope by the end of this talk, I will create some perspective. I hope that you see the world of creativity and art and textile in a very different way. Thank you once again, and welcome to In Search of Kasturi, where I explore the self-discovery through culture, heritage, and traditional crafts. So the story begins with the musk, a deer, which travels through the mountains and through the jungles, trying to figure out where the smell is coming from. And this deer is getting puzzled, and his mind is getting marked up with a lot of thoughts that I can't see the smell, but the smell is so beautiful that I'm getting mad about it. I need to find the smell. And in this pursuit, he meets a saint, a sage who was sitting, and this deer comes to the sage and asks, "Can you help me in finding this smell, this beautiful fragrance? And I'm getting mad about it, and I don't know from where this fragrance is coming." The sage says, "The scent is in you, the kasturi." Deer said, was confused. How can the smell is in with me? So the sage says that there's the smell is coming from a part which is inside you, and you have to find out which part. And eventually the deer finds out, and he gives his life in search of Kasturi. So that story kind of kept me thinking that crafts and art is something that one has to really dive in and really have to explore. It's more of a self exploration than teaching anybody arts and crafts. And that's why I come to my second idea of looking at a kumbh, a pot of plenty, that what we call. It's a metaphor. And all we know how this pot of plenty, when the Rakshasa and the Devas were churning the sea to find the Amrit Kumbh, this pot of plenty emerged from the sea. And this pot of plenty spilled some Amrit, and which again created a huge story around that. But I'm not concerned about the Amrit. I'm concerned about the pot here. And why the pot? Because pot is itself is a beautiful story. Because if you look at the pot has a texture, it has a size, it varies in different size. It can be made up of various materials, terracotta, metal, you name it, you can build it on it. It can be stacked on each other. The pot again beautifully can be hold in the hips of a woman, or she can carry on the head on one over another as a stacking element. It uses been used as a storage. It has been used as a cooling agent when the refrigerator were not there. It is easily to transport. Musicians play music from this pot. So it is just not a pot. It is a series of innovation, a series of idea, a history, a culture, the significance that people have used it to signify it in various manner. And also they have applied it in various way, and still it is very relevant to today's world. So what is a pot of plenty? If you look at, as I was talking about, metal caster melted, a milkman pours it to boil his milk, use it for pujas. We use ornamentation as a bitri artwork to make bitri. Use a sculpture, musician plays as a stack, and henceforth it can be used in various manners. And hence it becomes a very significant traditional art form of India. One of the significant elements that has always inspired me. That how pot, yet diverse in its shape and sizes, is used across the country, length and breadth, and everyone finds its own use. Everyone finds its own cause of having a pot in their house. So when I understood the pot and I thought that how can I interpret my pot, I created a sculpture which I used it for a installation at a hotel, and I used this as a Purna Kumbh, and how this pot inspired me from my within to create something which could be displayed. Now coming back to this pot. Now from the pot there are a lot of senses, there's sensibilities that comes up. Some of them are touch, smell, taste, see, hear, safety, culture, comfort, modification. So there are various loops that goes up and down, meeting each other and trying to connect a juxtaposition of things of what actually we are looking for in a design process, in an art process. And hence, there's another word that comes in my mind, that is empathy. When we work with crafts people, when we work with textile people, when we work with this committee, this people, we also have this thing called empathy. And empathy is not sympathy. Empathy means to put yourself into their shoes and try and see what they think, what they feel while they create. And henceforth, when an artisan or a craftsman or a textile weaver weaves it, everything is important. The touch, the smell, the taste, the see, the hear, everything is important. I'll give you a small example for you to understand. We all know there's a handloom saris are woven across India. But there's a technique called jamdani, which is an extra weft technique on a sari. Now, when we do it in Bengal, these are very complicated structures, and a single weaver cannot weave this. So, two weaver has to set to weave it. Now, their understanding with each other has to be good. Their cohesiveness, their friendship has to be good. It's like a musician, like the tabla and the sitar has to play together, otherwise the rhythm will break. So the weaver also this with has to partner with his second weaver to have that partnership going. So the food they ate, the smell that they breathe in, what they see, the touch, all has to parry, all has to match with each other. There has to be marriage between the loom, the weavers, and the weaving, and then product can be created. So, so one as a designer, as an artist, I need to understand their feeling. I need to understand why they are taking so much time, why they're looking for the correct partner to weave such complicated structure. So that's kind of an empathy, looking into details are so much important in our sector while we are creating an object. And henceforth, this five senses comes into play. The five sense of touch, smell, a feel, the space, the fire, all these elements come into play. And indigo is one of such element. Just for an example, to tell you that when you create an indigo, the smell is important, the taste is important, the feel, the touch is important. Otherwise, in the vat of the indigo is not correct. To create a vat of the indigo, all these five senses is required for a perfect vat to be created. So this five senses only will happen with patience, only will happen with empathy, and only will happen on understanding of detailing of what is the correct temperature for the vat to ferment, what is the smell that is required. So to understand that it's fermenting, what is the touch and feel of the vat it should be, so that the vat gives us that bright color. So all these senses again is comes up, it again kind of create this inherent structures within you as you when practice these art forms. Now, as a medium, as how does it work? So when I think to create something, the ideas that are coming up in my mind, it's like I create, I go back to the reality. Is it possible or not? I come back and again I think and again create and I come back. So it's a game of introspection. Art is a medium of introspection, and one has to come. It has to be introspected, not only with you within. You can't be selfish in when you're working with crafts and textiles. You also have to take consideration of the makers. You also have to take consideration of the people behind the makers who are creating the raw material. Try and understand what are the ways that this can be made. I will explain you in my further presentation why this part is so important. So when I say introspect, this is another client's work that I had done. Give an example. So this was a huge wall. This is just the half of the wall. It's about a 60 feet wall, one cast of bronze, and it took about 100 people to carry and fit this wall into this bronze wall into the wall. So it is a mammoth task. It was a mammoth task, and about six different skills of people work to create this project. And this is where I come to introspect. I create a design. I discuss it with my people that whether they like it or not like it. So they will have some viewpoints. Before doing the design, this is based on a Jain story. And I had to get a copywriter to help me with finding out six important elements or six important stories of Jain culture, Jain history, of how Jainism came, or how Jaina, Bhagwan Jain came, and what are the significant six stories. So this editor helped me in creating six stories. After those six stories, I had to introspect how to create six stories in a way that it will have a binding between all the six structure, yet it will look like an art piece, yet it will be in one flow. So I had to draw six designs, and this design shouldn't be just design because I'm not working as an artist. I'm here working with a craftsman. So I had to understand and craftsman from Orissa, how does he sculpt his stone? So I had to go and work with a Maharana, a Ratnakar from Orissa. How do he carve his stones, and what is his detailing? How does he work? So I did the sketches. I went to him and asked him for refinement. He did his own refinement on the drawings, which I again showed it to my client, and they kind of liked it. Then I again went to another this sculptor and said that can we create POP models, because I don't want stone models, I want POP models. He was little not happy on creating POP models because they were Maharanas, they were all a pride group of people. So I had to really explain and sit and talk to him, talk through him, understand his why he doesn't want to do it in POP. understand. And here the empathy word comes in. You have to create a bonding between the community. You have to create an understanding with this community. And henceforth, he agreed, and we became very good friends. And he agreed to make POP sculptures, which was beyond his usual skills, and yet he did those sculptures. So I got this sculptures, took to a bronze maker who makes this bronze plates, and asked him that I wanted to be casted in a one plate. And he said that's impossible, because this huge structure in one piece cannot be done. It can be done, but then it's a mammoth task, and I won't be able to make it. So I again had to talk to him, figure out a way how these structures can be done. Now, if you look at the structure, all are individual pieces that are sculpted out from a wall. But if you look at the detailing, if you see a lot of layers, and there are a lot of plates that are in between, round plates. So what I did, I divided into 6 parts and put the POP molds on the sculptures. And after the casting of the bronze model, I threw wax all throughout, and create a synergy where it will look like that it comes from one place. So this was completely out of the box, and this bronze sculptor did nothing like this before, where he was throwing wax and creating this wave-like structures. Again, understanding of detailing, understanding the complexities of how bronze sculpture can be used, bronze technique of casting can be used, and understanding how the detailing of each sculpture has to be figured out while designing. So, in a lot of introspection happens while you create a product, and when you work with the communities, they are very sensitive on certain things, on certain ways of creating a structure. They most of the time they won't be willing to go out of their way, beyond their way, and do certain things. But if you have an empathy, if you have an understanding, you will surely cross that line. So here I come to my next question, which is from again from our Vedas. It's called Neti and Neti. So my guru, from where I had learned a lot, Sri Rajiv Sethi, she always used to call this word called Neti Neti, which is not this, not that, neither this, neither that. So if so one has to really do, and not happy of creating the first one has to really do once, again and again and again and again, until unless you are very sure, unless your mind says that I can't do it anymore, and then you start doing more, until unless you come to a point where you really feel from your heart is saying probably the first one or the second one was better. So that's from where a design or an art happens. And it's really something like an introspection on Search of Kasturi, that you really have to dwell in yourself. And henceforth, if you see the tiger, and this is an image from the Harappa civilization, where there was a seal that they found. And if you see how abstract this tiger, and how they must have thought of creating this tiger in such different ways, just amazing how people can be so creative, so innovative. So sometimes I think that what came first, the skills, the creativity, the idea, or it was all together. So if these are questions that I also don't know, I'm still trying to figure out. If you see at these tigers created by various craftsmen and artists across India, I'm just wondering, a tiger on Alpana, and tiger in Worli, a tiger in Kalighat, or a tiger in South Indian sculpture, which is Yali, and carpet, all are different. Even in an art form, it's a different. And how people have imagined a tiger, and how they have kind of made it their own, made it their as a part of their life. And these are things, I mean, I'm really interested, and I really want to find more. And really, it's a search of how people think, how when we talk about abstraction, we talk about various abstraction in modern art, and in Renaissance, and how people are doing new modern art. But in India, we were always doing this abstraction from long time before anybody told us what is modern art. We were always abstracting, but in our own way. Our emotional quotient had an important part to play. Our upbringing, our sociological environment had a different upbringing. In many parts, when you see and Alpona, the tiger looks like a horse, because many of us in that time, in those period, have heard of a tiger but have not seen a tiger. So they have seen a horse, so they thought that the horse would be a tiger would be a very similar to the structure of a horse, except their mouth, and they will have some stripes, and so it was completely different. So yeah, as I was talking, like Yali, and then the sculpture of Tipu Sultan, which is an automata tiger. So all the tigers that you see are different, and we have been doing abstraction of tigers and many other elements as such in our own way. And henceforth, they're coming to my next work, which I wanted to show you. If you see in the right of the corner, that's Kalighat painting, which started long time back in Bengal. They were the Potuas, they were the painters who were called Potuas, and they used to do paintings of gods and goddesses primarily for uses in the household. Lakshmi, Ganesh, Durga, Kali, for puja. And people used to travel, so it was easier to if to remember that those days we didn't have photographs, so we had to paint images to carry it along with us and do pujas. So that's how the Potuas were known. But when the Britishers came and they saw this beautiful style of painting, some thought that why not ask them to introduce some of the current contemporary stories, and some of them started doing that. And one of the famous, Jamini Roy, and his work is in the Museum of Modern Art, and he's known for his artworks. And he started doing it in a different manner. And the henceforth Kalighat pot chitro, what we see, has changed its art form in a very different way. So when I thought I wanted to do this art form in my way, so I started creating and abstracting the form. I wanted to do it in a very different way. And hence I created this table-like structure, which is like a table, which actually is an abstraction of their form, because they were also abstracting human form in a different way. So why not taking the abstraction to the next level, where I do the painting of the form in a very different, it's a different way. So again, I collaborated with a woodworker, chitro artist, myself, who drew the drawing, and also with a painter who did a final bit of texturing on it. So there were five people involved in it, in creating this structure, and it's with somebody's private collection. But then this is a story how one has to understand the detailing of the crafts, the detailing and the strength of each one has, and then you use those strength to create your own bit of it. So exploration of cultural roots is, again, as I was talking earlier also, is again an important thing. So we have 64 colors, and there are 64 colors. I won't get into those 64 colors, but these are cultural significance that India has, and we are blessed to have these. And we should all explore these 64 colors. And each color has a very there's a color of wearing saris. There's a color of dressing up. There's a word in Hindi called sajna and savarna. In English, we just said dress up. So dress up and sajna and savarna are two different things. Dress up means you dress up well. You can wear a coat and a shirt and a pant, and then you dress up. But savarna is something where you actually ornament yourself with the things that you're wearing. So that is sajna and savarna. So these are Sanskrit and cultural inheritance that we have, and we must explore in details, in depth. And henceforth, I come to this aspect of sari. If you look at a sari, and we do create a lot of saris. My wife is a textile artist and designer, and she's working in a in an area of saris. And if I look at a sari, it's beautiful the way it's been draped. And if you look, there's a research that has happened which talks that a sari is can fit everyone. It doesn't need a size. Anyone can fit into it. It protects you in winters or in summers. The pallu can be wrapped around you, and it can protect you. The pleats in the sari works as a ventilation for air to go in and to come out. So also it gives you easy movement if you work. Again, sari can be used in a different way, different purpose. And if you see those some of the drapes in that our traditional people have been wearing, and each are from a different work field, and they wear the sari in their way they want it. So again, it has, if you look at a sari as a fabric, it's just so much to give. And I think We are so blessed to have sari as a uniform, as a cultural significance of India. And I think it's one of our best designed product, and I think that's been gifted to the world. So when we talk about sari, so there if you see creative expression and authenticity, this I wanted to stress upon because currently we have seen Gucci and there were many other brands. I don't want to name their name their brands, but there were a lot of international brands who actually got inspired from Indian textiles and art and craft, and they created a lot of designs which were displayed in Paris Fashion Week, and they didn't acknowledge that they were inspired from India. The authenticity was not expressed. Henceforth, there was a huge backlash, and slowly they have to acknowledge that this is from a Kolhapuri chappal, this is from a sari, this motive is from India, and henceforth they had to do. So our creative expression and authenticity is something which makes us stand apart from the whole world. The motives that we have, the colors that we place, the heritage, the creativity, the skill that it comes, everything. Also, a bonus is the sustainability. If you know that the United Nation has come up with this sustainability plan, and all the 16 elements that they have applied that one has to use going forward for all the industry, crafts and textile applies to all those 16. It's handmade, it gives lots of employment, less of water, it is sustainable material, there is accessibility of the raw material. So everything, all those things apply. So again, that's the reason why India's crafts and textile is one of the biggest, is the second biggest backbone after farming. And this is again, when I talk about saris, there's some of the saris, and that sari in the middle is was displayed for the New York Fashion Week for about 2 months, and it was kept for display and showing how our artistry of our chandani, our finest muslin, can be woven in this part of the country where the threads are completely handmade. And these are, when I say 300 count, it means in 1 inch there will be 300 threads. Each thread has been handmade and been used to make this sari. So this kind of skill only we have in our country have, and we possess this skill and tradition to enjoy. We are very lucky to enjoy this kind of luxury. We call it a luxury because this luxury, other countries don't have the luxury of creativity. You think and you have the possibility of creating it. This is a luxury. You can wear the finest cotton, and where people are only wearing mill yarn cotton. And you know, if to make this sari, there are 13 people involved from making of the yarn to the end product. So there are 13 people involved. So each person, when a sari is been sold, each person gets his or her share. So that's again a beauty of handloom and crafts. Coming back to this project, and it's a very dear project, and there were a lot of articles that had come. This is a project which I did for Japan Social Funded Fund and this World Bank project, where there's a craft, and now it's quite a thriving craft called Sikki, and this is actually a grass grown in wild, and we found some pieces in the Bihar Patna Museum, not the new one, the old one, and we were thinking how we can start this project again. And Japan Social Fund through World Bank and Asian Heritage Foundation had this got this opportunity, asked me to go and work with them. So when I started working with in Bihar, north of Bihar, it's a very different area. Most of these women are in their loose and they won't come out to work. Initially, when I went there as a young man, I had to convince the panchayat first that I have come with certain ideas and I had to do this. I had to pursue them and to make them believe that it's purely an exercise to revive these crafts, not anything else. So the Sarpanch had allotted the senior most person to be as a guardian of this project. So every time I went there and wanted to do a workshop, a guardian was sitting in the community hall where I was doing, along with two people sitting outside to check whether I was true enough in delivering what I was telling. The women were also very nervous and anxious because they didn't had this idea that they can also earn from with their skills, and they can come out and into a community hall and work along with a man which is not their husband but as a collaborator. So this idea was something, a lot of conflict. So I had to spend a lot of time. I gave a small party, not a party in the sense, but we had a get together of picnic kind of a thing where everybody cooked. I also got something, and we all had a good time, like an ice breaking session to understand. I had some rice and fish, mustard fish, then some makhanas, and we made a good friendship. We created a good ambience. Only when the craftsmen are good enough, they feel free, they are confident, they're going to really deliver their best. So these are one, when one sees this, they would see these are something, but these are all made out of very fine grasses which are woven together to create those things. So initially, they when they started, they thought it was not possible, but once they made it, it was. I mean, these ladies, and most of them have not gone to their school, but their children were going to the schools. There are a lot of local festivals like Jutia, and then there were other things where they had to fast and they had to. So I had to kind of understand that these are some cultural significance which comes around with the community, with the craft skill, and had to bear my patience of staying there more than what I had thought of. And henceforth, the project came out well, the product came out well. Now it's a thriving cluster. So many people, so many, there are many stories, but I'm just sharing one of the story. Finding the craftsman was again another story that's maybe on some other day we'll discuss. But this is an adventure, and this product came out really well. And ITC wanted a Christmas tree, and I thought that Christmas is something is an important festival in Calcutta. I mean, my brother-in-law came and saw Park Street and said, "In the Times, New York doesn't celebrate Christmas the way like Calcuttans do." So it's a big thing in Calcutta in Christmas, like Durga Puja and like Eid also. Christmas, we like to celebrate everybody's festival. So Christmas was a festival, and I thought, why having a Christmas tree which is completely not within our community? So it's an important idea of Christmas tree. So I had an idea to get this Murshidabad painters to paint a Christmas tree on the art forms they have been painting, and they have been working on it. So I created a Christmas tree on that line, and this was with the CBI, new CBI office building. But I used again work with the Patachitra artist to do public art installation. And this is again a very interesting subject where how spaces can be used. And we called it Panchendrani, with 5 elements. Again, coming back to 5 elements. I mean, these are things, these are elements which kind of keeps lingering in my mind, and I always go back in creating this products, and creating in search of Kasturi, as I always say. Try see how my country can be represented, how my crafts person can be represented, my skills, my country's skill can be represented in various manners. And hence I had collected a lot of antique panels. I worked with some beadwork makers, I worked with metal makers, wood makers, and created this whole structure. It's a huge structure. It's about 200 feet structure, but I had to kind of put it together to create it into one. This just happened at in the art show last year, and this is again talks about the history of Bengal's maritime before the Mughals came. It was during the Romans, and how Hooghly and this belt was of the undivided Bengal. Togaon was part of a huge creative and cultural movement from Bengal, and how art traveled to Indonesia, Bali, and how Borobudur, the Buddhist sculpture happened. So there's a huge story in it. And I had to do a research with a lot of people. I did a lot of research on money, helped me with this research work. So I did this research again, collaborating with a lot of artisans, collaborating with the woodmaker, collaborating with an artist, collaborating with various kinds of calligraphers. And again, I'm saying it's a collaborative effort. One has to understand each one's space. Again, the word empathy, the word look into the details comes up. Only when you have an empathy towards certain and try to understand their perspective, a collaborative work happens, and it happens it creates a beautiful art form. So this was an art form, and it talks about their structures. And it took some time, but again, as I tell you, every process is interesting. Every process is mesmerizing because you're working with amazing people around you, amazing craftsmen, amazing textile artists, amazing collaborators, and things become, it becomes like an adventure when the products kind of comes to an culmination. This is a small even just happened sharp tilak where we kind of I asked a lot of collaborators to come together. The music was part of how block printing was just not a block printing. If you see the performances, they are from Kutch and they are performing an art piece which the Kutchi makers, Matani Pachedi, is an art form in south of India, and they had created a song, and on that basis of that song, the performers are doing a dance which talks about block printing, and the block printers are also there who created those block prints. So it's not just about one element. As I'm telling you, in India, is we are blessed. We are everything is so connected. And again, coming back to a note that I read a long time back, it says that in Vedas, it says that to be an artist, you have to be a mathematician. To be a mathematician, you have to be a poet. To be a poet, you have to be an architect. So everything connects. So it's very evident. A dance performance with the precision of blocks, with the music, everything is so connected, and that's what we presented here. And yeah, and coming back to my last thing, my last slide called Tat Tatsva Asi means everything is inside you. You just need to kind of see through, calm down, hear what your heart, what your mind is saying. And I believe in that. And be open to hearing people, be open to listen to your craftspeople, textile artists, and the world is just like an adventure, and you go on a safari. Thank you for hearing. Thank you being present. Thank you being